All right, let's just jump right in with one of the oldest and, let's be honest, most unsettling questions out there. How do you know for sure that you're not dreaming right now?
You know the feeling, right? When a dream is just so vivid, so detailed, so emotionally real, it feels completely legit. The feeling of falling, the thrill of flying, the pure terror of a chase. Your brain just cooks it all up, perfectly.
And that's where it gets tricky. I mean, really think about it. If you were stuck in that dream, would you even have a clue? What possible test could you run that the dream itself couldn't just fake? Yeah, that's the rabbit hole we're diving into today.
And look, this isn't some new age puzzle or a cool idea from a sci-fi movie. This question has been haunting thinkers for thousands of years. It's a fundamental problem right at the heart of philosophy.
From ancient Greece and China all the way to the birth of modern science, some of the greatest minds have wrestled with this possibility, that the world we see, touch, and take for granted might just be one big, elaborate illusion. Let's see how that doubt has changed over time.
Let's start with three philosophical heavyweights who really set the stage for this whole debate: Plato, Descartes, and Zhuangzi. And what's so cool is that they each came at it from a totally different direction. So, first up, let's go way back, over 2,000 years to ancient Athens, and talk about Plato. He gave us one of the most powerful metaphors ever, the allegory of the cave.
Okay, so picture this. People are chained up in a cave their entire lives, forced to stare at a wall. Behind them, a fire casts shadows on that wall. For them, that's it. Those flickering shadows are reality. They don't know anything else. Plato argued that we're all kind of like those prisoners, mistaking the world we perceive for the real deal, when it's really just a fuzzy, distorted copy of a higher, more perfect reality, a world of forms you can only grasp with your mind.
And that's the key to understanding Plato. For him, the problem wasn't just about dreams, it was metaphysical. He was asking about the fundamental nature of reality itself. He believed a truer world was out there, and our job was to break free from the illusion our senses feed us to find it.
Now let's fast forward almost 2,000 years to 17th century France and René Descartes. Descartes took this big cosmic doubt of Plato's, and he made it personal, like really personal and way more radical. He pointed out that, hey, his dreams often felt completely real, with sights, sounds, and feelings that were totally convincing.
And then he just pushed this idea to the absolute logical extreme with his evil demon hypothesis. He asked, what if some super powerful evil being was just feeding all of your experiences directly into your mind, tricking you about everything, not just what you see, but even stuff you think is a sure thing, like 2 + 3 = 5? How could you ever prove that wasn't happening?
So you see the shift? This is what's so brilliant about Descartes. The problem was no longer metaphysical, what is real, it became epistemological. How can I know what is real? He wasn't looking for a higher world. He was looking for just one thing he could be absolutely certain of in his own mind.
Okay, so now let's hop over to ancient China, around the same time as Plato, actually. The Daoist philosopher Zhuangzi gave us a totally different spin with this beautiful, haunting paradox. He said he dreamed he was a butterfly, just fluttering around, so happy he didn't even know he was Zhuangzi. And then he woke up, and he was left with this question he couldn't answer. But here's the thing. Unlike Descartes, who is kind of tortured by this uncertainty, Zhuangzi, he's not sweating it. The point for him isn't to figure out which one is the real self. It's to show this core Daoist idea, the transformation of things. In his view, Zhuangzi and the butterfly aren't a real you and a fake you. They're just different phases in this constant flow of change. So Zhuangzi basically just sidesteps the whole problem by asking a way deeper ontological question. Forget whether the world is real. What if the very I, the you that's asking the question, isn't some fixed, stable thing in the first place? Maybe the problem is thinking there's one single true reality to find it all. Okay, so philosophy gives us this amazing framework for the question, but what does modern science have to say? Let's get out of the armchair and into the lab and see what's actually happening inside our brains.
Well, at first glance, it looks like the scientists would be just as confused as the philosophers. When we hook people up to an EEG, we see that during REM sleep, when most vivid dreams happen, the brain is buzzing with high-frequency beta waves. The crazy thing is that brainwave pattern looks almost identical to someone who's wide awake and focused. It's why they call it paradoxical sleep.
But when we look at the brain's chemistry, a totally different picture emerges. When we're awake, our brain's got this cocktail of chemicals keeping us alert and rational. But during REM sleep, while acetylcholine, the stuff for memory and imagery, stays high, boom! Two other key chemicals, norepinephrine and serotonin, which help with logic and focus, they basically just vanish. This unique chemical soup is probably why our dreams are so vivid, but also so weird.
Okay, you really got to see this slide because it brings everything together. We can compare 4 different states of mind here. Look at the waking state on the left. Your senses are focused externally, your thinking is logical, and you have a high sense of agency. You feel in control. Now, just scan over to REM dreaming. Your senses are now focused internally, your thinking is totally illogical and associative, and your agency? It's pretty much gone. You're just along for the ride.
And what's so important to get is that your brain isn't just, switching off when you sleep. Nope, it's actively building a wall. Parts of your brainstem create what's called a sensory gate, and it blocks most of the information coming in from the outside world. That's what lets the dream world feel so incredibly immersive. There's no competing reality to spoil it.
And this brings us to lucid dreaming, which is basically the Rosetta Stone for this whole puzzle. It's this amazing hybrid state. You're sound asleep, deep in REM, but then boom, you become aware. You know you're dreaming. And brain scans show that in that exact moment, parts of your prefrontal cortex, the parts for self-awareness and control, just light back up.
And this is huge. This is the big takeaway from all the brain science. Lucid dreaming proves that the line between waking and dreaming isn't a solid wall. It's more like a blurry, permeable membrane. It means you can literally turn on parts of your waking mind while you're still inside the architecture of a dream. They're not totally separate states after all.
So, this blurry line, it's not just some weird fun fact for scientists or lucid dreamers. For some people, those walls between the inner world and the outer world can get dangerously thin, or even just dissolve.
Yeah, this isn't just some abstract idea. For some people, this is their everyday reality. In conditions like depersonalization, you feel detached from yourself, like you're watching your life in a movie. In psychosis, that line can completely collapse. And even things like maladaptive daydreaming show how a rich inner world can start to interfere with the outer one. These conditions just go to show how fragile our grip on reality can be.
And here's where it gets really wild. The stuff that can happen naturally in the brain, we're now getting really good at creating it on purpose with technology. Virtual reality basically hijacks the exact same systems a dream uses. It floods your senses with so much information that it just overwhelms what's really going on around you. And the result is this feeling of presence, this deep gut feeling that you are actually there. It's like a waking dream we can turn on and off.
And that's exactly why movies like The Matrix or Inception just hit so hard, right? They aren't just cool action flicks. There are modern-day versions of Plato's cave. They're the new thought experiments we use to poke at the same questions that kept Plato and Descartes up at night.
So, where does that leave us? If reality is this shaky, if the line between dreaming and waking is so blurry, how do we all manage to, live together without everything just falling apart?
I mean, if I can't be 100% sure you're real, maybe you're all just figments of my imagination, right? That's the problem of solipsism. And it's a pretty lonely and paralyzing place to be. If everyone thought that, society would be impossible. So what keeps us all grounded?
The anchor is something called intersubjective agreement. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. We agree things are real because we can all check them out together. I believe that tree is real not just because I see it, but because you can see it too. We can agree on what it's like. That shared agreement is the foundation for almost everything, from science to law.
But what's really nuts is that we take this idea and we run with it. Think about money. A dollar bill, it's just paper. A country's border, it's an imaginary line. These things only have power because billions of us agreed to believe in them. In a very real way, our entire civilization is built on top of these powerful shared dreams.
Okay, but this leads to a really tough question, ethically. If this is all just some kind of dream or simulation, and the consequences aren't ultimately real, does that mean morality goes out the window? Can I just do whatever I want?
Not necessarily. There's an ancient way of thinking called virtue ethics that has a great answer. It says that morality isn't just about the outcome of your actions, it's about what your actions turn you into. Even if you're in a dream, if you choose to be cruel, you're practicing being a cruel person. If you choose to be compassionate, you're practicing being a compassionate person. From this view, the dream is basically a training ground for your character.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway. Maybe the whole question, is this real, is the wrong one to ask. Maybe reality isn't some static thing out there that we have to find and prove. Maybe reality is an action. It's something we build, an ongoing process of building a shared, meaningful world together.
So, are you dreaming? Well, the answer seems to be way more complicated than just yes or no. But maybe the most useful, pragmatic answer comes from the great science fiction author, Philip K. Dick. In a world of deep uncertainty, some things, pain, love, consequences, they have a stubborn habit of sticking around whether you believe in them or not. And maybe, just maybe, that's real enough.